Hi, Steve. Thank you very much for joining us today in our podcast. You're joining from the company, your company, Stringer, Stringer Flavors. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your company?
Yes, well, the company was formed by my father-in-law in the late 50s. He was a perfumer, and he worked with a chap called Dr. May, who specialised in savoury Maillard reaction flavours. And they started off in quite humble beginnings in Rickmansworth, and then Harry had a custom-built factory built in Tring in Hertfordshire. And at that point, we had a perfumery arm and a flavour arm. The flavour arm got bigger as the supermarket presence in this country got bigger. And we actually, I took over the company in 1998, and it was quite run down and underinvested. It had been neglected since Harry died in 1985. And so there was lots to do. And since then, we've been building and reforming the company, the way it works. I had to take some quite drastic decisions during my sort of early years at the factory. But one of the first things we did was to get organic products going. So we were the first flavour company in the UK to have organic products into the market, ingredients. And so our experience sort of stems from around about that date. We specialise in natural flavourings, and we really run. Although we've got a sales team that does kind of back up inquiries, we really have a web-based kind of inquiry system that it just expedites the whole inquiry process. So we don't like to faff around because speed is everything, and accuracy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Since you mentioned that speed part, right? And we specifically are going to dive a little bit into the go to market. When you would talk to your customers, what is it that you would when they want to bring a product to the market? What is your experience? What would you advise them?
to make sure they've got sufficient investment for one thing, because it's not a cheap game to bring things to market. I think sometimes people underestimate the amount of work it takes and funding it takes. But having said that, it just depends on the type of company we're dealing with. If it's blue chip company, then the whole thing gets very serious, and it usually starts around the marketing, guys in the company, that in the client. So there's lots to take into consideration. You've got labeling issues, you've got depiction issues, and that would affect our product selection process. So if it's a small time entrepreneur, we try to actually back hot prospects that we feel are on trend, and that sometimes comes from funny little corners and places. The places they start, it can be anything from a kitchen table up to a small unit somewhere. Someone that's got ambitions about getting into the food industry, and they have a hot product.
And
Go on.
and how do you and because they try your product. It normally starts, I guess, with a sample.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Well, I guess I know. But how do you anticipate?
What I'm referring to, Jasper, is you're asking me,
Uh,
how we expedite our process, how we actually work fast.
yeah,
And the way we work fast is to make sure that the product we select, and you've got to bear in mind that we have maybe 500,000 formulations that we've accumulated since we began. Maybe 250,000 of each side of the business, sweet and savoury flavours. So it's a labyrinth in a sense. I mean, we've got go-to products that are quick pick, but sometimes Well, the strange thing is, you find that you're always asked for a new product, and also, so that affects. I mean, if we have what we feel is an on-trend idea, we'll just make it. We'll just formulate it. We'll create it, because that's something that's missing from our palette, and we want to have a complete palette. So,
Yeah.
so the thing is that if it's for a small time company, we'll get as near to as they want as a perfect fit. So obviously, we want to expedite our product selection process, and the way we do that is to take the criteria, the labelling criteria, the manufacturing criteria, and all various other things, liquid, powder, all those issues. We have to take those into account before we actually select the right product. And it's really all about not wasting any time, because time is of the essence, in our industry. If you're first out with a sample and it fits, you're going to win the business.
We see exactly the same thing on the One to Taste platform, where we actually see, once you are the first on the table, you're the first that the people start developing with, and you're the most likely candidate to win the brief, right? But do you have a certain strategy, because timelines are short, you're mentioning, right? But probably you have around 2,000 different stock keeping units as raw materials, right? How do you make sure that once a product is successful, that you can also scale up to the volumes?
We have to make sure that, it's all about exchanging information from the customer. So the more transparency we have, there's no point in beating around the bush and just playing cloak and dagger. We have to get to an understanding. People, the whole thing about business is it has to be win-win. If it's win-lose, then it drives people out of business, and that's no good to anyone, because you'll create fractures in the supply chain. So what's important is people understand the value of your service. The only way you can provide a valuable service is to make efficiencies in the factory, and in the manufacturing process. So we make sure that we find out what call off times, approximate usage, and we just stop for it. It's as simple as that, really. When we were just after lockdown, there was one of the things we did was we invested in stock, because we were seeing, we anticipated lag times, so we had to make sure that we had stock to fulfill orders, and for that reason, we work on average of about 10 to 15 days lead time from order acceptance. So we try to keep it at that. If it drifts anywhere, then we start to get concerned and we start to make changes. So we make sure that we've got stock in anticipation of call off. So in other words, if somebody says they want, half a ton of a product over a year, then we sort of divide that up into sections, and that affects our order patterns for that product.
Nice. It seems like because our experience with HC Stringer is super positive. I think you guys are very flexible. You're very fast, which is a pleasure, and actually it fits completely with what we're trying to achieve on and what the digital experience should be. You should order today and be able to deliver in the upcoming days after that, right? I know, Steve, it's a short interview, but I'm going to wrap it a little bit up.
Fine.
But if you had to give one last thought, what would that be?
One last thought.
What would you advise your customer as a number one in when he would go and launch a product? What would be the first thing that he needs to do, or in regards to ingredients?
Well, I think a person's got to measure the tipping point. So basically, we price according to volume, because we make to order. So Everything has
Yeah.
to run very efficiently, and so if you think about that, if you're making to order, then obviously you need as much information from the customer as possible. So really, I guess, as far as we're concerned with our client relationship, it's built on trust and confidentiality. Because obviously the reason why people are often cloak and dagger is because they're worried about someone's going to steal ideas if it's a new trend. And so I think just to be as frank and open, once they decide to work with you as a company and they've got their trust in you because of the service that you've given them today, then normally people are quite free to exchange information about what they anticipate the product's going to do, and we tailor our business to service that need, because you really, in the food industry, you never really know where the next trend's coming from or what it's going to look like. So yeah, we have to be flexible.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so. If I would put that in one word, is transparency.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that is what it comes
that
down
is
to.
really the most important thing.
Honest communications.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And because
All right.
flavors are things that are basically, they sort of stabilize a product, they standardize a product, due to the natural fluctuations you get in ingredients, and in terms of cost and use, they're actually the lowest and most constant value to a product. So you've got two things: you've got the labeling and the flavor profile that creates the character of a product. That's why people buy a specific product, the brand loyalty, the flavor profile, and that means they're going to buy twice, which is what everyone wants.
Yeah, the first order is nice, the second is
Exactly.
more important, right?
Yeah.
Well, Steve, sorry to. I think we could go
We
on
could,
for another hour.
easily.
I'm 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 really fascinated, and I'm going to repeat myself. I think it's really great how you are showing your flexibility and your speed in
Yeah.
supply, and I truly compliment you as a
Thank
company
you.
in that. We'll be surely working
Yes.
lots together, and we are already. So I look forward to that, and I want to thank
Yeah,
you.
and just
for
one
this
last
interview.
thing. Everyone can do large,
Yes.
everyone can do high volume, but it's do small well is the issue. If you do small well, you can do anything, and we do small well.
I completely agree with you. I am 100% aligned.
Great.
100%
Well, nice
aligned.
talking to you, Jasper.